welcome to another episode of the LEI'D Back Life podcast, where we're talking about loving entrepreneurship and improving daily. As you can tell, this episode is different than other episodes. Instead of interviewing a guest, I'm going to be interviewed from a guest. This is Olivia, my personal assistant. So we decided the best way to end 2024 was to share, I would say, our favorite stories, but I haven't planned any of this. So Olivia's favorite stories that she had thought were the best thing to cap off the end of podcast 2024.
Yes. Hello. Hi. So I'm Olivia. I started working as Jordan's assistant in August. So a lot of these stories are going to be from August and onwards. But I feel like since I started working here, Jordan and I have had some funny moments, some good teaching opportunities. So I thought it'd be cool with this episode to cap off the new year. Kind of ran through those a little bit. Okay, so since I've started working here, we've had a lot of fun outings together as a firm, probably more than I would say I've ever experienced in any job before, which has been really cool. Some of my favorite memories have been escape rooms we've gone to. Jordan took the firm out to SeaWorld one day, which was really cool. So Jordan, throughout all of 2024, what would you say has been one of your best memories with the team?
I mean, honestly, to answer your question by not directly answering your question,
right,
having a team that I enjoy spending time with, I think is the biggest thing. Because it's interesting. I mean, like, if you can't see this, but like over there, I've got all my books, and there's a bunch of them about culture and building culture and what a level 5 team is and all this stuff. And ultimately, like, if you work with people that you genuinely like, all of the other stuff is sort of easy or commonsensical. You know, when you're forcing yourself to work with people you hate spending time with, that's where you have to like really try and incorporate this intentional culture building. Because like between us, like we will sit in meetings later just to like hear about people's weekends and everything. And I think that's culture. So it's not necessarily a one-time thing. It's like having people that I genuinely enjoy spending the time with.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think, you know, every Friday we have Friday meetings with the team, and we take maybe 15 minutes or so to talk about highlights of our weekends, our week, good news that we've had. We do usually an icebreaker to get to know each other more. And when I show up for those meetings, they've never felt like meetings. They've always felt like sitting around with a table of friends, talking shop. And I really appreciate that about this firm. I think that's cool that we've been able to establish that. But yeah, so okay, way to not answer the question, but I like that answer. It was a good answer. So throughout my time working here, you know, I think we've established a good rapport, but there's also been a lot of trial and error, I feel like, to get to this kind of relationship where I come onto your podcast and talk about stories. So,
to be fair, you asked for this.
As you do make a good point.
Just making
you
sure.
Agreed. So.
Yeah. Oh, totally. There was no doubt in my mind. I wasn't going to force this upon you.
Which I think this is very cool. But what would you say has been one of the most like hilarious misunderstandings that we've had to sort of get to this point?
We talking about the BOI?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So there's this, I don't know if it's a real story or apocryphal story of this person that makes like a $250,000 mistake and goes in to meet with their supervisor. They're like, am I getting fired? And the supervisor's like, it's the dumbest time for me to fire you because I just taught you this $250,000 lesson. So I think that's the important beginning of this, in that, like, I don't know that I have the gumption on a $250,000 mistake. But for those of you that don't know, business owners, this BOI, this, what is it? The
beneficial ownership information.
There we go. Thank you. Is this like new thing that they dropped out to try and stop, I don't know, human trafficking, money laundering, whatever, but like it has not been rolled out particularly well. And so there's a bunch of these companies that are sending out all these mass emails, like, we will fill this out. And of course they like make it look like it's from a real entity. And so we had the situation for one of the companies. And so it was like $500 for them to fill this out. And basically you do all the work and upload it, and then they go in and submit it for you, doing nothing, because the whole thing is like getting everybody's license and stuff. Am I right in that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So in the scheme of like complete weirdness of situation. I email Olivia about this and I'm like, hey, we have to do this by the end of the year. Like, let's talk about our next meeting. And then within like 24 hours, we get one of these like scammy emails for it. Perfectly timed. So she takes the email and fills it out and pays it. And again, $4.99, $500, whatever along those lines. Like, how did you feel in that moment?
In the moment, I'm looking at this email from you that's like, hey, we have to file this BOI report. And then I'm looking at the only other BOI related email in your inbox, which is from this company saying, we'll file it for you. And it has like their logo as like a official looking seal, and it has the word like Florida in it. And I'm like, oh, this must be from the government. I must have to fill this out. And so I click on it, I fill it out, I see it's $500. And, you know, the thought did cross my mind that I should have said something along the lines of like, hey, Jordan, this is going to cost $500 to do, and could have completely avoided this. But instead, I'm like, no. Jordan told me to do this. This must be what the government requires. So fill it out, send it in. And I remember walking in to ask you something unrelated. And as you're doing that, I was like, oh, by the way, I filled out the BOI. It cost $500. And the look that you gave me, it was like my soul left my body. I was like, oh, what did I do?
What was the look?
The look was like a, man, I wish I could replicate it.
Okay.
You gave me like a, it was like a look of shock, a look of disbelief, a look of, why did you just say $500? And I remember you said too, you were like, it was supposed to be free. And I was like, oh man, who did I just pay and what did I pay them for? And then, yeah, later figuring it out. I think at first I was like, man, this is really stressful. This was like my first, I feel like, major mess up in a job ever. So I was very hard on myself, discovering that I just fell for an email scam like a 60-year-old.
Like, did I tell you made a mistake?
No. And that was the cool thing. Well, I mean, granted, yes, it was a mistake, but like, it was just me being hard on myself. But yeah.
Because from my standpoint, my shock was more like, oh, you did this. Like, I didn't even know that we had talked about doing this or what to do.
There was
the point. And then I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure it's free.
It was free.
When we did it correctly.
When we did it correctly.
But the upside was you had collected all the information you needed.
That's true.
To pay somebody else $500 to do.
Very true.
The upload instead of uploading it.
I think the worst part of all of that was that I then later did, in fact, go in and do the hard work that I falsely paid someone else to do. So,
well, like I've never in the past kept my driver's license scanned in anything. We've never needed it for stuff, but like that's like the big thing of the BOI. It's
true. And now your driver's license is scanned in your Google Drive. So that's cool.
And okay, so thank you. That is helpful. So then what was my, like, once we identified the situation, what did I push you to do?
At least, so maybe this isn't what you were trying to get at, but this is what I took away from it, was beating yourself up about the situation, stressing about it, worrying about it does nothing. You have to be, I don't know if proactive is the right word, but you have to reactive maybe. Like, you just have to take the steps to try and fix it. That's all you can do, is what's in your control when things like that happen.
Yeah, if there are steps.
If there are steps.
Yeah, totally.
If there's not steps, then you take you learn what you can from it and you move on.
And to be honest, from my standpoint, I appreciated that you were too hard on yourself, but I appreciated that you were somewhat hard on yourself. I just think you were too hard on yourself. Like, it was definite to me, like, you learned, like, this was worth the lesson from my standpoint.
I've never spent any money without asking.
Well, and how I've been telling you, like, no, that, for a $15 exercise glove, like, you don't have to check with me.
That's true.
But I mean, like, so you were sitting there beating yourself up about it. I mean, one, when we realized it was an issue, but two, like, what can we do about it? So, we reached out to the bank to see from that standpoint, reach out to the company. Ultimately, they refunded us the stuff. So, like, it's great because I think there's a great lesson in here, and we ended up, like, not having the financial hit, which in the scheme of things, it's $500 is worth you learning some of this because there's so many spammy. At least that was like a thing that we needed. It just happened to catch us in the wrong way. There's other like register this and reporting that and like that are complete and utter scams. Like this at least was a real thing that just played out the wrong way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just trying to get you in that mindset of like so often as humans we get stuck in a problem, but let's be solution focused if there's a solution. And the beauty of law is like, but for if you get something filed with prejudice or you blow a statute of limitations, like everything's fixable. And so really like just focus on, we have become aware of a problem. Here's what we're doing to change it, instead of just being like, oh, well, that sucked.
Yeah, you make a great point. And I've definitely tried to take that lesson and apply it to things going forward. And I think one of the other things too is there are preventative measures you can take to avoid problems like this. And what I mean is that if I had actually read the fine print of that email from the company, it would have said that they were not affiliated with any government agency. So maybe the real
Florida, legitimatefloridafilings.com is actually not legitimate Florida filings.
If anything, the main takeaway was read the fine print. But if you don't, then you got to be solution focused on how to fix what went wrong in the first place.
And so two things. So one, Tim Ferriss, I think it's in 4 Hour Work Week, has a whole thing about like figuring out the amount of money that is worth checking. So like $500 is probably in our check. I would say like $250 and below, like certainly $100 and below, like it's not worth it. So that's a good thing to put in place. Secondly, you are actually leaving out the best part of this whole story.
Oh my goodness, what did I forget?
The fact that this was Boss's Day and you had given me a balloon like 15 seconds before this situation.
I thought that.
So there was also a split second where I was like, is this a joke? Not that you did it. Like, is this like, hey, I think you're a great boss, and now I'm going to test it for $500. Like, it was so quick in time.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. I went to Publix the day before. I was like, man, it's Boss's Day. I got to get this balloon. I showed up feeling confident. I was like, Jordan, here's this balloon. I'm killing it at my job, by the way. Just filed the BOI, and then boom, wrong. Yeah, I totally forgot about that. Very funny coincidence.
It was great.
It was not a test, but that would have been funnier if it was like a prank or something like that. But no, it was real.
Well, I think to the extent it was a test, I think you passed the test, and I hope you think I passed my side of the test.
Yeah, I think it was a great learning opportunity. It was a good learning opportunity for me and us too. I mean, did you feel like you learned anything from that opportunity?
I mean, specifically, not a ton. Like, it was just so, like, there are situations that would be easily solved with communication. To Olivia's credit, like, literally, I saw some webinar or whatever about the BOI. I was like, oh yeah, I don't think we did that. And just like sent this email. And then within 24 hours, we had this email in the inbox. Like, it was just such crazy timing for it to go that far. Because obviously, like, I didn't see their email and I didn't want to follow it. And then BOI is a new thing. So it wasn't even like I was like, hey, go to this website. I was like, hey, we need to file this. I don't know what it requires. Like, we'll talk about it. And then like, here's this email. We will solve this problem for you. And so it was great. And it was easy for me to not blame you because of the way that it played out in, random happenstance.
Sure. Yeah. It all worked out. So what a great memory of 2024 that we can talk about forever.
Until, I'm sure if they're going to pull any if the new administration next year pulls any regulation, I'm pretty sure the BOI thing will be like top of the list. So this may be a thing that never happens again.
It's true. Well, apparently you only have to file it once.
Oh, even better. There we go.
The ownership of your company changes. So just in case you're a business out there who hasn't filed it yet, you still have time.
You have today.
You have today.
I think this is going to air on the 31st.
That's true.
Go file it at a website for free. You just need your ID.
Yeah. And a little bit more information. Where's your business? Who owns it?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So, more I suppose. I don't know how to segue this one.
All right. So our last episode was me talking about the way to make 2025 your best year yet. And I will tell you, I hate the sound of my own voice. I love interviews or being interviewed, so I don't have to do that. This episode was so great that I'm pretty sure I talked nonstop for over an hour, which has never happened. Certainly not without curse words or some sort of, impetus to it. So I hope you'll check out the episode. It was a labor of love and something that I truly believe that we can all have a great 2025. With that, segue back.
Yeah. With that being said, okay, let's hone in on this. So I don't know if you've seen this trend before, but usually going into the new year, people talk about what's in and what's out for the next year.
Are Hawaiian shirts in?
Hawaiian shirts could be in for 2025.
Could be in. We don't know yet.
With the jury's still out on that one.
All right.
So with that being said, I'm curious, what would some of your ins and outs be going into the new year for 2025?
I am not popular or into popular stuff. I don't know. Like what's in?
Well, no, that's for you to decide.
Oh, like I get to pick what's in.
Okay, so to give you an example.
Yeah.
So
See, I don't even know
you understand what's going
yeah,
on.
I don't even know this part. Like some TikTok trend, right?
Yeah, TikTok trend, internet trend, whatever. So for me, one of my ins for 2025 is Aldi, like the grocery store.
Okay.
One of my outs is Publix, the grocery store.
You know, Publix is a sponsor of this podcast.
Stop.
No, they're not.
Since when did that happen?
But Publix is in for me.
Publix is in for you?
Yeah.
Okay, why is Publix in for you?
Well, because listen.
Okay.
I wanna stress. I cannot stress this enough. The people that are like, oh my God, everything is so expensive. Yes, I understand. Things are so expensive. But there are certain things in life that it is worth paying money for the experience, for the service, for the return policy, for whatever. And so I am biased. I have eaten Publix subs for 30 something years of my life. However, for it to be like 30% more than Walmart or Aldi or whatever, and actually I'm not even going to be out on Aldi. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But like, it's worth paying that to go into Publix and know that the store is clean and know that the employees for the most part have livable wages and have stock options and you can return anything at any point with no questions asked. Like, it is a smooth process. I am personally willing to spend extra money for that. I get that not everybody is in that position, but like the luxury of spending $10 on Publix chicken tenders instead of $8 on Walmart chicken tenders is well worth it.
Walmart has chicken tenders?
I don't know.
I feel like they don't.
Okay.
Who knows? I think you make a good point. I will say though, this isn't a conspiracy theory. I went to Walmart once and I bought like coffee creamer there.
Yeah.
And sorry, reverse. I went to Publix once, bought coffee creamer there. It was like $5.01. I was like, okay, perfect. And then I went to Walmart later. It was like $4.99. I was like, this is crazy. There's definitely an upcharge there.
Of 0.2 cents?
Of 0.2 cents, which in hindsight, drink a lot of coffee creamer. This adds up. Why Publix is out for 2025.
My 2 cents is that 2 cents is not worth it. Now, to be fair, also, I'm not out on Aldi.
Okay.
The one problem I have with Aldi is if you find anything really good, it may never be there again.
That's so true.
So if you shop at Aldi, which I'm cool with, buy in bulk if you like it. Mm-hmm. Freeze it, like whatever, because it could be gone.
It could be gone. It's so true. It's happened way too many times before. They have like frozen sushi at Aldi that sounds...
Sorry.
It sounds scary.
I'm glad that you leaned into that obvious, okay?
It sounds scary, but it's actually delicious. But
I'm out on frozen sushi then. I'm going to put that on my list.
Okay, so in is fresh sushi, out is...
Oh yeah, definitely.
Sushi. It's
no cream cheese.
In sushi in general?
Yeah.
Really?
Really.
Why?
Why do I need cream cheese?
It's delicious.
It's not a bagel. It's sushi.
Have you ever been to Bento?
Yes, I unfortunately have.
Yeah, it is. It's all right.
Spicy. So mind you, look, everybody who watches this doesn't live in Florida, so you may not know Publix, you may not know Bento.
So sorry.
But yeah, like my wife who doesn't eat any Asian food almost likes Bento. I eat a ton of Asian food, and so I don't.
I wouldn't call Bento like authentic in any sense.
They have a lot of cream cheese in their sushi.
Well, this is where the story was going. Okay. My favorite thing to get from Bento, which is this is in for 2025, is the crunch roll, which is just like a deep fried roll with so much cream cheese. It's not even funny. it does kind of taste like a bagel
There you go.
or like a jalapeno popper or something like that. Pretty good. Okay, so that's in for 2025 for me personally.
Fresh sushi.
Okay. So, now that you get some examples,
Yeah.
they can be serious, they can be funny. What are some of your ins and outs for 2025?
In giving people grace. And so like there's this weird thing that I came across, and I wish I could say who said this, but in essence, if we all got together and we actually put our baggage on the table, you would want to go home with your own baggage because you know that you're living through it. And yet, consequently, we are either like our own worst enemy, but then also terrible to other people, not assuming that they have their version of our baggage as well. And so like have some grace with yourself and with other people. And I want to be very clear. I flick off other drivers and honk my horn a lot. So like I am a work in progress on that one. But like in person, I think I'm better about having grace with people.
Okay. So then wait, before we get to your out, that's actually so funny that you mentioned that because
I flicked you off the other day when we were driving. Oh, okay.
In the parking lot. No. But we didn't talk about this before, but one of the things I wrote down for one of my ins and outs was actually for 2025 was going to be like more, being more like self-reassuring.
Yeah.
And out for 2025 was going to be like doubting myself and things like that. So I think it's funny that you mentioned like baggage, us being very hard on ourselves seems to have been a theme in 2024 since I started working here and the BOI thing.
There we go.
Anyways, so what is your out going to be then?
Oh, okay. So you need to have them compared? Like an in has to have a corresponding out?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then...
Well, I mean, I guess not. It could be unrelated.
I mean, like here, I'll give this and I'll give a story. So I'm out on like being concerned about what other people think about you when you don't actually care about those other people. Like I am fine with you, like you don't want to let your parents down or your spouse, whatever. I get that part. But like my kid wanted to be Deadpool for Halloween, so I was Wolverine. So I grew my hair out. I have had this same hair, but for it being cut every 4 weeks for, I don't know. Like I went through a phase in COVID where I just grew all the hair out. But like it's been this forever.
I will say, when you showed up to the office with the start of your Wolverine hair,
yeah,
I didn't verbally say this, but the first thought I had was like, man, something must be going on with Jordan.
Great. Well, you know how many people said anything or observed it in any way, shape, or form? It was like 2 people.
Yeah.
And I want to be very clear. I am not saying this from the standpoint of more people should have commented on the fact that I changed my hair for the first time in 10 years. I am saying it from the standpoint of you shouldn't care if you change your hair after 10 years because like no one's going to notice or they're not going to say anything or they're not going to care. And then also like the flip side after that, I was like, how many times has somebody else in my life completely changed something for the first time in that time? And I had no idea.
That's true. You didn't notice I got a haircut. Did you know that?
No.
Yep, exactly. See? And I didn't even care.
How different is your hair?
I had really long hair and then I cut it. Granted, it's grown out since I cut it in, when was it? I'm going to go with October, like early October. I cut my hair. I like showed up for our Friday meeting and I was like, everyone's going to notice and my hair's shorter now. Nobody noticed.
I did comment on a shirt once the next day and you were like, how the hell did you know I was wearing that shirt yesterday? Like, you were sitting in a meeting with me.
The Bucky's shirt. Yeah. I do remember that. That was.
So I observed something.
Yeah, I guess so.
As you can tell, I'm more a shirt person than a hair person.
That's very true. We're matching, if you couldn't tell, for today's episode.
Oh, well, if it's a podcast, the people listening can't tell.
People listening, we're both wearing Hawaiian shirts right now. Getting into the laid back life, if you will.
There we go.
Yeah.
Are we doing more ins and outs or is just one?
I mean, did you ever finish your story?
Oh, my story was just like, I changed my hair.
Yeah.
My mom commented on it. And then a chiropractor that we know commented on it. That was it. Like in front of dozens of people for like weeks that I had this. Nobody said anything until afterwards. And then they were like, oh, cool Wolverine hair. Are you going to keep it or cut it? And I was like, my wife has aggressively told me to cut it. And like, so ladies, I'm sorry. It's so easy. I'm just like out of the shower, one flick, done, ready to go.
Yeah.
Set.
Your hair wasn't even that long when you grew it out, so.
No, it was the top. It was, yeah, anyway.
Do you have any more ins and outs for 2025?
Man, I don't know. I'm all like philosophical So like
Those make good ins and outs.
okay, I hate hypocrisy. It is my least favorite thing.
Okay.
To the extent that if I've ever been hypocritical, like, I am sorry, please call me out on it. I'm not hypocritical about being hypocritical. It's okay to change your mind. I'm totally cool with that. But like, I want people's performance, people's personality, people's whatever to be consistent. I don't want some like obvious thing.
Fake. You don't want fake.
But it's not even fake. It's like, hey, I'm going to believe something this way when it's in my benefit, and I'm going to complain about it the opposite. So for example, like, we have this whole push, right? Like, we want people to have a livable wage. I think that's something we should all want. I'd like to think everybody wants it. If you are the person who is rightfully, I think, saying everyone deserves a livable wage, but then you are also like, but why are things so expensive? Things need to be cheaper.
Ooh, okay. Those two don't coincide.
There's probably some part where they can, but like, let's like, look, we have had a ton of inflation in the last 2 years because we had like 30 years of no inflation before that. And I would love to tell you that I think the president and the government controls inflation and that there will something to change. I don't think that'll be the case. I think if we have tariffs with China and we increase the cost of all that stuff by 50%, things will get 50% more expensive. But anyway, like, just be consistent. And so like, if you want things as cheap as possible, you can't complain about people not having a living wage. You can't complain about whatever else it is. If you want a living wage, like, understand that money has to go somewhere.
Granted, my take on the situation, I agree with you, except for this one hyper specific scenario you gave, which I think is a part of a larger conversation on corporate greed.
Okay,
but,
sure.
I mean, I don't know if we're going to talk about all that on today's episode of the ins and outs of 2024 and 2025. But yeah, I think one person can ask for a livable wage, but also still be like, why is everything so expensive?
What you said is 100% correct. I am specifically saying like the food scene. Everyone being like, why am I spending $17 for a hot dog? But also the person making my hot dog has to make a livable wage. But then like, they only sell 4 hot dogs a day, but then their costs have increased. So yes, I get it. Like, there are certainly CEOs out there making way more than they need to, whatever. But like, specifically from small local businesses,
I agree with you.
It is so weird to me to be like, why does it cost X to have my house clean? But also I want my house to be cleaned by people that are here illegally and have a livable wage. And like, those things are related. Like, you have to, there's only so much in the pot.
Okay. I agree with you there. I think that's a really good point. Interesting in and out though for 2025.
In
livable wage.
No. Not even that's one example.
Okay.
What is in for me is actually thinking about what you truly believe and honoring that throughout the entire course. Out is just like virtue signaling. Just like, I support everybody. I'm aggravated at all of this. I like just saying things for the purpose of what other people think of you. So maybe really it all just goes back to that. Just be you as loudly as you can, and you will find people that like you, and you'll find people that hate you, and that's okay too.
Well, I mean, that's a really good point. And that kind of segues into another really good topic that I wanted to talk about was, so you've already written a book, Love Your Law Firm. Great.
Thank you.
Still haven't read it yet. No worries.
It's okay.
But you're writing a new book. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. Your new book.
Love Your Life.
Love Your Life.
The easy follow-up to Love Your Law Firm.
You will.
So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it. It's also going to make me do it because I'm like 20 pages in with like 70 pages outlined, whatever. In essence, like last week's podcast episode is really the book summarized in an hour. So the book will go a lot deeper into that. And so it's a labor of love. I keep coming, and this is in last week's podcast. I just come back to this concept of like, we get fed this like pro-capitalism, porn, hustle porn, grind mentality. Yeah, I know. I did the wrong order. It makes less sense, right? Like, this just like work 16 hours a day and grind yourself down and this and that and the other. But then like
mindset. Yeah.
Ooh, I've never heard that. So, but then you realize like, we'll be dead. And when you go to like any memoir from anybody famous, there was this lady, and I wish I remembered her name. I haven't picked it up in the last 30 minutes. said this last week, who was a hospice nurse who like wrote down everybody's deathbed confessions of, or not necessarily like specifics, like the broad picture of it. And number one is working too much. You know, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I spent more time with my kids. I wish I was there. Wish I showed up better. So like, we're in this weird concept of Gary Vee, who I love, telling you to work 16 hours a week, and all these other people. But then like 99% of successful people at the end are like, yeah, my life was kind of miserable and I didn't get to see my kids and they hate me and don't talk to me now and whatever. Like, I just don't think someone's going to sit there on their deathbed saying like, man, I really wish I had another $100,000 to spend on, I don't know. Like,
it's the public's inflation.
Sure. Okay.
But no, I think you make a good point. So in your book, you know, I've seen the outline before. You talk about, you know, forming habits that align with your goals and how to actually do that, which I think is super cool. But do you have any advice at all for people who are looking to be more authentically themselves and like still balance work at the same time?
Yeah. Well, look, and that's the whole point, right? It's all a balance. Like the whole live your life like it's your last day. Like that makes no sense because you had $0 to spend the next day, right? Like you blew through everything. You can't retire now and nobody can count on whatever. So like there is a balance in some form. So here's the thing for me. There is a downside to social media in which I think it radicalizes people. It puts you in an echo chamber.
Yeah.
In both sides. This is not a political argument against one side. It's against both far sides. The flip side of that, though, is it's because we can get connected to whatever we want. You know, Patton Oswalt wrote this thing called The Death of Nerd, where he's like, I had these friends that every Tuesday we went to the local comic book store and we bought everything. Why? Because nobody else liked comics. Now I can find some group of people that only read 1970s X-Men West Coast team and know everything about it. Like I am not stuck in this specific thing. So to your point, to your question, like just be you loudly. There is somewhere out there are enough people who like you for whatever reason. You know, there's a brand that wants to partner with you because you wear Hawaiian shirts and you talk to lawyers and whatever. There is a job out there for you because you have this very specific take on this topic. Like you just have to find that thing. And instead, I mean, and this goes back to like dating, right? Like we pretend to be somebody else for the first couple dates, and then we wonder why people get divorced because like you weren't yourself.
Yeah.
And so like my wife and I will joke about this all the time in a positive way. Like our second date was flat out like, how many kids do you want to have? How do you want to raise them? Like what, like we went deep on it. And mind you, we didn't know each other for like 2 years before we started dating. So like, it was just we don't want to like tell people we're trying this out if we know there's going to be some terrible reason for us not to be together. And knock on wood, we've been married 10 years.
Cool.
8.5 happy ones. We joke. That's in Florida, you get 85% game time. So being former criminal attorneys, that's our running joke about the marriage being our game time.
I never actually understood that.
Now you do.
I kind of thought you guys just had it rough.
Actually figured, well, I mean, like the first year having our kid was really tough. Like God bless him, he's wonderful now. It was very tough. And then other than that, you know, sporadically another 6 months over 9 something years. Not terrible, if it is true. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, to balance. So like I don't know that you have to balance.
Oh, interesting.
From yourself. Like you have to balance time for work, time for life, time for health, whatever. But like in terms of being who you are, I don't think you have to balance.
But explain more on that because
sure.
You know, I get it, but just in case for the listeners at home, maybe they don't get what you mean.
That was a game right there on that. Okay, so like I'm going to use an example that is incredibly politically charged, like it or not. There was a Orlando-based punk, like a hard rock concert. I can't tell you any of the bands that were in it by name. I can tell you the concert wanted to have Kyle Rittenhouse present at the concert. What is the relationship between heavy metal and somebody who drove to another state to shoot somebody? I have no idea. I'm like, potentially there was some sort of belief in the organizers that like Kyle Rittenhouse would be a draw for people that like heavy metal. I cannot figure this out. I thought this was an Onion article. Like, I don't get it, regardless of the fact that like there are people that are pro Kyle Rittenhouse. So like not even a stance issue. I just did not understand the link.
Right.
So clearly, like, there are people out there paying this guy money to show up to random festivals that potentially have people that will like it. In this case, all the bands pulled out and the festival canceled him and like the whole thing, whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just at a complete and utter shock that like somebody being famous for shooting somebody would get money and opportunities from it. But like, this is where we are. And so please, please, please don't take that as my advice. You go shoot somebody. Not my point. But
what is the point?
the point is that like there's 8 million people, there's 8 billion people out there. There's 400 million people in the country. Like whatever you are, whatever you say, whatever you do, fortunately or unfortunately, there's a group of people that are going to back you.
You make a good point. So here's a broader question / do you have any thoughts or advice on this? Which is, like, the internet has made it a lot easier for people to stay connected.
Yeah.
Which I think, is a good thing, can also be a bad thing too. But what would you say, what advice would you give people who are in the process of trying to find that group that accepts them, kind of thing,
Great question.
Yeah.
So I actually had this conversation with several people in my circle that I was like, how do you find, like, I have some great referral sources. I've got a group of referral sources of those who became friends. Like, how do you find new right people? In essence, you create an ideal avatar of them and you figure out where that person's going to be. So like in the specifics of my breakdown, one friend said, go join the most expensive gym you could possibly find in the area because you will find other people that are interested in their health who can afford a $200 a month gym or whatever the heck it costs.
Right.
I'm Planet Fitness for $20.
Right.
The other friend was like, go find the most expensive restaurant that you like and just like show up consistently on Tuesday and Wednesday and see who else is there consistently on those days, because that's somebody else who can afford a fancy dinner for no reason in the middle of the week at whatever. And so like, not a fan of the restaurant he suggested, but that concept. So like figuring out who are you trying to find, what is it about them, where are they? And then like either what's the shared interest, what's the connection to be with those people, to hang out with those people. The flip side to that is if you're not sure what that is, then like I would go to people I already like and say like, basically, what can we do to spend more time together? So like I have had friends come to me that say, hey, I want to try disc golf. Like, can we go play? Sure. I want to go try pickleball. Can we go play? Sure. If I was looking for another hobby that would eventually ruin my knee more than it already is, I would go to people I like and be like, hey, what do you do? What can we do? What's fun? Like, what are you interested in? Like, let's try it out and see where that comes from. So that would be my advice to your question.
Join a roller derby team.
But I guarantee you we have a bunch of those in the area.
There are 100%. Well, actually, there's a shortage of like roller skating rinks just in the area. Were you aware of this?
No, I'm aware that we passed tort reform that makes it harder to sue a roller skating rink, and therefore there should be more of them because now they don't really have to have insurance.
Wow, no, there's like none in the area. Kind of shocking.
They're there.
There's like one.
Yeah, maybe, but I guarantee you they have roller derby.
I don't know about all that.
All right.
I haven't looked into it.
We'll find it out after this. But if somebody messages us, we'll go back and report on the Central Florida roller derby scene.
Yeah, somebody in the comments, let us know. But I think it's funny that you mentioned the ideal avatar sheet.
Yeah.
You've definitely talked about that before, but you talk about it in terms of marketing.
Yeah.
So like businesses use that sheet, create who they think their ideal client is, ideal whoever, and then like center your marketing around that person that you've just created. So it's a bit of a weird concept to think that if you're like trying to find like friends, a group of people to accept you, something like that, you almost attack it with the same strategy of like, what's your ideal person that you want to hang out with? Where are they? Go find them in like a not creepy way.
Yeah. But like, what is good marketing?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I have created this business that I think is the right fit for this person who I want to work with. How do I bridge that gap? So you have created a good life, which you hope is a good fit for the other people that you want to spend more time with. So find them. Like, it's the same thing.
I think that's a good point. Do you talk about that all in your book?
No.
Cool. Well, we talked about it here now.
There we go. We'll add a new chapter. No, but like the best advice is not business advice. It's not relationship advice. It's not marriage advice. It's life advice. It's stuff that you can apply to every area of your life. And the more that you figure out like who you are and the foundations of what you want, the easier it is to make those decisions for your business, for your friends, for your spouse, for yourself, whatever, instead of being like, oh, well, when I'm around so-and-so, I need to act like this. And when I'm over here, I need to act this way. And when I'm this way. So flat out, like I get at, there's a citrus club. It's like a club downtown, and they email me like every couple months to join. It is not that exclusive. I am not humble bragging. I write back. I don't
emails.
Yeah, right. I get spam emails to join a club that I can pay for. And flat out, I'm just like, look, I don't want to go anywhere where I have to wear pants. And they think I'm being a jerk. And I was like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, if I need to wear pants, why am I here? It's 9 and I'm wearing shorts. I want to be very clear. Like it is below the knee leg coverings. It's like 95 to 105 degrees here all the time, 8-9 months out of the year. It's only getting warmer. Why am I intentionally signing up to be miserable and uncomfortable?
It's a good point.
So if I'm going to open the not citrus club where you have to wear shorts and flip flops.
No pants.
And a sleeve, a short sleeve shirt.
Yeah. All Hawaiian shirts only.
Yeah, we won't go that far.
Okay.
But yeah, like why am I signing up to pay money to show up to something where I know I'm going to be uncomfortable, and then I'm not going to be as interested in going. I'm not going to show up the right way. I'm not going to be as funny and approachable as I am when I'm happy.
Yeah.
Etc. So
you make a good point. So I think what we've learned from this is, honestly, biggest in for 2025 is just keeping it real.
Being yourself.
I think this was a long-winded way of saying, keep it real, guys.
There we go. Is this our end?
What?
Is this our end?
I mean, we could talk about one if you wanted to.
Okay, so this Friday, our newsletter is about NPS scores. So Net Promoter Score. The wild part is I wrote maybe 2 months before I wrote this article, I actually knew what a Net Promoter Score was. I thought I did beforehand, and I was wrong.
I have no idea.
It's how likely are you to recommend blah, blah, blah.
Oh, okay.
So we've seen it. I knew that part.
Okay.
But if you read the article, there's a part where I talk about why it is called a Net Promoter Score. I was totally wrong in what I thought. So hope that triggers you to check out the article. And then come back next Tuesday. So that will be Friday. Next Tuesday, we've got Moshe Amsel on. Moshe came to us literally from Israel, seeing his new grandkid, cutting in and out with, it was just amazing to me that we were talking about how you build a business that allows you to have a life, as this guy used it to travel, to see his kid, to jump in on this podcast. I tried to get him to reschedule. He was like, no, it's totally fine. It's 6:00 then. It was a great time. It wasn't during the Sabbath, great time for him to jump on a podcast and get some stuff done. So really a cool opportunity to see somebody living what they are preaching as we have this conversation. Okay, so the other in.
Oh, okay. So another in. I think one of the biggest things you tried to drill into my head since I started working here is having a water-like state of mind.
Mind like water.
Mind like water. I get it wrong.
I've taught it, yeah, every time.
I get it wrong every time.
Yeah.
Because I don't fully understand it, but I think it's a cool concept. So, Jordan, just in case, because I understand it, but just in case some of the listeners at home.
You're ready for podcast. So, comes from David Allen's Getting Things Done, and then he gets it from Kung Fu, martial arts, whatever, having a mind like water. So the stance here is that water just flows. And from that, we get the Grand Canyon. From that, we get, all of this change in society. Not that the water is changing, that the water is flowing. So how do you keep your mind continuing to flow? You do that by not trying to remember things. Flat out, the human brain is not processed to store any vast amounts of information. It is built to process. Because yes, as much as ancient humans needed to remember a small enough area to get around in and a large enough area to remember where to find food, it was more important to be like, hey, that rustle in the bushes is a saber-toothed tiger and I'm booking it. And maybe saber-toothed tigers aren't humans. Maybe that's a Neanderthal. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
You need to have that.
There.
You need to have that. You need to have a mind like water. So how do you get everything out of your head and down into something? I would suggest not paper. We've had this discussion also.
He makes fun of this little notebook I carry around all the time, which granted, it's a terrible system. I forget everything, but
I don't make fun of the notebook. I make fun of the fact that you write things in the notebook and then don't do them. So that's the issue. So like for me, it's digital. And so that allows me to have a mind like water, which allows me to show up to podcasts and answer questions and enjoy my life and consult and coach my clients without worrying about 7,000 other things, because like I know when those things become an issue, they will come up for me in the place that makes the most sense.
Mm-hmm.
So like I will have on my calendar travel time to lunch. I will have on my calendar where to go. I'll have on my calendar who I'm meeting. I will have on my calendar a link to their forums so I can look into like what I know about them if need be. So I don't have to sit here trying to keep in my head 100 of these things. I know, like, just look at the calendar when you're done, follow the next thing. It's got what you need. And that allows me to have a mind like water most of the time.
That's true. It's a good system in theory, but for those wanting to implement it, what would you say is a good starting point?
A good starting point is clearing out all the places that you have to go to find anything and limiting that to as few things as possible.
Give us some examples.
Sure. So my calendar is my day, and all of my calendar events should have everything I need to complete that event on the calendar.
Right.
So like my child has a doctor's appointment tomorrow. I have the location. I have the instructions of where to go. I have what to expect. I have it timed for a certain period of time. After that, I'm going to be reviewing some documents. The documents are linked on the calendar, like they are there. If I'm checking email, ideally I have time, I have 30 minutes on my calendar that says check email, and with a link to the email it's open in another tab. The problem is, like, we get into the system where we have a notebook that we write some things in. We have reminders in 14 different apps on our phone. We have alarms set. We have Apple reminders. We have 3 different calendars that aren't synced with each other, that some are on our phone and some are on our laptop, and some only have this and some only have that. Plus we have a to-do list on our fridge. Plus we have yada, yada, yada. So minimize the number of places that you have to go. For me, I keep all of my small reminders in my phone, and I have them tagged to like either a date or a time or a location. So you can say like, hey Siri, when I get to my office, remind me to do blank. Hey, in 30 minutes, remind me to do this. So if I'm driving and something occurs to me, I will just ping myself to remember it so that I don't have to remember it.
Yeah, no, that's true. You taught me how to do that. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
You taught me how to use technology. I thought that was pretty funny.
It depends upon the technology. And then like I have my calendar on my phone. And so like those are the things. And when I get to my house, my keys go in a specific spot. I have a breakfast bar chair that is like my wallet and whatever else is in my pocket. It's cool. It's my normal spot. It's not really that official, but like it is what it is. I know where all my things are unless somebody else has broken the system or moved them, right. Which I have a 6-year-old, so it happens. But even he's getting better. He's like, where's the last place you saw this? And I'm like, in the spot where it's supposed to go and it's not here. So yeah, that's the first step in having a mind like water, is limiting the places you have to go to find any information, what to do, tech system, whatever.
Cool. Yeah, I definitely think it is good in theory, could be good in practice. I personally need to get better at consolidating everything. I think my biggest problem, would that be the right word? Problem, issue is that everything is in my notes app, just scattered. If I have a thought throughout the day, if I don't have my physical notebook on me, I will use my digital notebook and just loose random thoughts. And that system has not worked for me yet. So maybe in 2025, getting the notes app to work for me.
There we go. So to push back slightly, it is not questionable in practice. It is phenomenal in practice. It's getting it to work in practice that is the difficulty. Once it's there, it's there. So for you in that situation, I would recommend setting aside time to organize where those notes are and put them in a place that is better. Because we get so caught up in this thing about like, oh, I found this in X place, I'm putting it back there. Instead, we should say, I looked for this in X place first. I should put it back in that spot. So we want to retrieve things not where we left them, but where we will next need them.
Right. Which I think it's good. There's been many times before where I've been like, where is this thing? And when I eventually find it, I put it right back where I initially looked for it, is where I'm arguably going to look for it again. So
there you go.
It's a good idea. Whoever came up with that. Who was it? Mind Like Water?
That's Mind Like Water, David Allen from like martial arts.
Thank you, David Allen from martial arts.
There we go. All right. With that, hope you enjoy NPS scores this Friday. See you back next week with Moshe Amsel. Thank you all for watching and listening. Deuces. Adios. Goodbye, 2024. Here's to 2025.